Today we are going to talk about something that has everyone talking online and in the news. We are going to break down a moment from the show The View that caught fire on social media. It all started when Whoopi Goldberg, one of the co-hosts of The View, spoke very bluntly about how some Republican leaders reacted to comments made by Donald Trump after the death of Rob Reiner and his wife. What Whoopi said was intense, and the reaction has been strong from many sides. In this video, I want to give you the full story, explain how we got here, and make sense of why this moment matters. Let's begin with the people involved. Whoopi Goldberg is a well-known actress and TV host. She has hosted The View for many years. The View is a show where hosts talk about news, politics, and pop culture. The show is known for lively debates, honest opinions, and sometimes heated conversations. Whoopi is someone who speaks her mind. She doesn't hide her views, and she often pushes back when she feels something is wrong. Then there is Donald Trump. Trump was the President of the United States. He is still a major figure in American politics. Almost anything he says can make headlines. Trump is a highly polarizing person. People either strongly support him or strongly oppose him. When Trump speaks, it usually gets a lot of attention. The latest controversy began after the shocking death of Rob Reiner and his wife. Rob Reiner was a famous film director and actor. He made many classic movies, and he was known for his work in Hollywood. The news of his death was tragic. His passing hit many people hard because he was beloved in the entertainment world and beyond. After the news broke about Rob Reiner's death, Donald Trump made comments online that many people found insensitive. Instead of offering sympathy, Trump brought politics into the situation. He used the moment to criticize Reiner for his past opposition to Trump's politics. Many people saw Trump's comments as inappropriate and lacking basic respect for the family's loss. This sparked a backlash online. Whoopi Goldberg addressed this moment on The View. She didn't hold back. She called out Republicans who had not condemned Trump's remarks. Her exact words were strong and emotional. She said things like there is no excuse for staying silent when someone makes comments that seem to take advantage of a tragedy. She pointed out that when a family loses loved ones, especially in violent circumstances, political attacks feel cruel. According to Decider, Whoopi openly said "damn you all" to Republicans who hadn't spoken up against Trump's behavior. This reaction from Whoopi sent the internet into a frenzy. People began debating whether she was right to call out silence. Some agreed with her completely. They said that everyone, no matter their politics, should be able to condemn comments that hurt grieving families. Others said she went too far. Some Republicans responded by saying that they didn't agree with Trump's posts, but also didn't want to comment publicly. Many argued that it's unfair to expect political leaders to speak on every situation. Some even said that Whoopi's attack was too harsh. So why does this matter? At first, it might seem like just another moment of loud voices arguing online. But it speaks to something deeper. It shows how tense political conversations have become in America. Even moments that feel like they should be simple, like offering sympathy after a death, get pulled into political fights. This moment shows how divided people are, and how quickly discussions can escalate from grief to political debate. In the next part of the script, we will dig deeper into what exactly Trump wrote, why so many people reacted strongly, and what various Republicans said or did in response. We will also talk about why silence can sometimes speak louder than words in politics. To understand why this moment became so explosive, we need to look closely at what Donald Trump actually said and why it triggered such a strong reaction. After news broke about the death of Rob Reiner and his wife, many public figures shared messages of sympathy. This is usually expected when someone well-known passes away. But Trump chose a very different path. Instead of offering condolences, he made comments online that tied Reiner's death to political hostility and what he often calls hatred toward him. According to reports from Variety, Trump framed Rob Reiner as someone consumed by opposition to Trump, even in death, and suggested this mindset defined Reiner's life. For many people, this crossed a clear line. The issue was not about free speech or political disagreement. The issue was timing and basic decency. When a family is grieving, most people expect empathy first. Political arguments can wait. Critics argued that Trump's comments felt cold and unnecessary, especially given the seriousness of the situation. Entertainment Weekly reported that multiple commentators described Trump's words as lacking compassion and respect. Now here is where Republicans come into the picture. Trump remains a powerful figure within the Republican Party. Many GOP leaders rely on his base for political support. Because of this, some Republicans avoid criticizing him publicly, even when controversy erupts. After Trump's remarks about Rob Reiner, only a small number of Republican figures spoke out. Most stayed silent. That silence is what Whoopi Goldberg focused on during her segment on The View. Whoopi argued that silence in moments like this sends a message. She said that when leaders say nothing, it can feel like approval. According to TV Insider, Whoopi emphasized that this was not about party loyalty, but about humanity. She said there are moments when moral clarity should outweigh political strategy. Her frustration was not new. Whoopi and her co-hosts have often criticized politicians for avoiding accountability. But this time, her tone was sharper. She openly challenged Republicans to explain why they could not simply say that Trump's comments were wrong. She questioned how leaders could expect public trust if they refused to call out behavior that many see as cruel. Republicans who defended their silence offered different explanations. Some said they did not see the need to comment on every statement Trump makes. Others argued that engaging would only fuel more outrage. A few said they privately disagreed but preferred not to escalate tensions publicly. These responses did not satisfy critics. To people like Whoopi, private disagreement means very little if public harm is done and left unaddressed. This clash highlights a deeper issue in modern politics. Many leaders now weigh every word against political consequences rather than moral ones. The fear of backlash from voters often outweighs the desire to speak plainly. Media analysts have pointed out that this creates a culture where silence becomes safer than honesty. But that safety comes at a cost. It erodes trust and makes public discourse feel empty and performative. It is also important to be fair. Not every Republican supports Trump's behavior, and not every silence means approval. Politics is complex. However, moments involving death and tragedy are often seen as tests of character. For many viewers, this was one of those moments. Whoopi Goldberg's outburst reflected a broader frustration felt by many Americans who are tired of seeing basic empathy replaced by political calculation. In the next part, we will focus on Whoopi Goldberg's exact words, how her co-hosts reacted in real time, and how audiences across the country responded. We will also examine whether her blunt approach helped the conversation or made divisions even deeper. When Whoopi Goldberg spoke on The View, her words were direct, emotional, and meant to challenge silence. She did not soften her message. She called out Republicans who had not condemned Donald Trump's remarks about Rob Reiner. She said that failing to speak up in this moment was more than just political caution. To Whoopi, it was a failure of basic humanity. She explained that there are times when saying nothing is the same as taking the wrong side. According to Decider, Whoopi explicitly said "damn you all" to the Republicans who stayed silent, making it clear that she was deeply frustrated and expecting accountability. Her co-hosts reacted with support and discussion. Ana Navarro, who often speaks boldly about politics, backed Whoopi's point. She explained that public silence can be seen as tacit approval, and that leaders have a responsibility to publicly reject statements that are harmful or insensitive. The conversation on The View became a deeper discussion about morality in politics and what leaders owe to the public during sensitive moments. TV Insider reported that this discussion quickly became one of the most talked about segments of the day, with many viewers taking to social media to share their opinions. The audience's response was divided. Many viewers praised Whoopi for speaking her mind. They said her message was long overdue. Social media lit up with people sharing clips of her segment and highlighting the need for leaders to act with empathy and respect. Variety reported that hashtags and trending topics related to the segment showed people supporting her call for accountability. Viewers appreciated that someone in the media dared to call out political silence instead of just criticizing one political party. On the other side, critics said Whoopi's words were too harsh. Some argued that public shaming does not encourage meaningful discussion. They suggested that political leaders might have reasons for staying silent, including avoiding further controversy or protecting their political base. Entertainment Weekly noted that some commentators felt the moment could have been handled with more balance rather than strong public condemnation. Despite these differences, the segment highlighted an important reality. In today's political climate, moments of grief and tragedy can quickly turn into political flashpoints. The way people react, whether with silence or with criticism, sends a strong signal. Whoopi Goldberg's words remind viewers that empathy, honesty, and human decency are valued by the public. Silence is not always neutral, and failing to speak when it matters can have consequences. This is one reason why the conversation resonated with so many people. The segment became not only a critique of Trump, but also a broader discussion about responsibility in politics. Media analysts noted that this episode of The View reflected a trend in American culture where television hosts are not just commentators, but also voices holding leaders accountable. Audiences increasingly expect hosts to address moral issues, not just political ones. Whoopi Goldberg's approach combined both emotional honesty and social commentary, which is why it sparked so much discussion. TV Insider called it a moment of truth for both media and politics, emphasizing how a single outspoken voice can influence public conversation and pressure leaders to act. Finally, this segment shows that in modern America, public figures are watched closely. Every statement is scrutinized, and every silence is interpreted. Leaders are judged not only for what they say, but for what they do not say. Whoopi Goldberg's message was clear. In moments of tragedy, choosing not to speak can have a powerful impact, and it is a choice that carries responsibility. This idea will remain central as we look at the reactions and wider implications in the next part of our discussion. After Whoopi Goldberg's strong words on The View, the conversation moved beyond the show. Social media exploded with reactions. Clips of Whoopi saying, "Damn you all," went viral within hours. People debated her message, the silence of Republican leaders, and Donald Trump's original comments. Some praised her for being brave and speaking honestly. Others said she went too far and that public criticism of politicians should be more measured. Regardless of opinion, the moment showed how powerful one person's voice can be when it calls out what is widely seen as wrongdoing. Many viewers pointed out that this situation is not just about politics. It is also about basic human decency. When someone dies tragically, especially in violent circumstances, the first response expected from others is sympathy. Critics argued that Trump's comments ignored this universal expectation. According to NME, multiple voices in the entertainment world joined Whoopi's critique, saying it is possible to hold political views while still respecting grief. People felt that Trump politicizing Reiner's death crossed an emotional and ethical line. Republican leaders' silence became a central issue in the discussion. Some analysts said that the reluctance to speak publicly is part of a larger strategy. Trump's influence over the Republican base is strong, and many politicians worry about angering his supporters. Private disagreement, they argue, may not be enough. Public silence in such situations, however, sends a message that many view as complicity. Entertainment Weekly described this as a moment where morality and political calculation clash. Whoopi's co-hosts on The View supported her stance, explaining why speaking up publicly matters. Ana Navarro emphasized that politicians have a responsibility to reject harmful statements, even when politically uncomfortable. She said that the public judges leaders not only by their words, but by their choices in difficult moments. Silence, when action is needed, can damage public trust and send the wrong message. TV Insider highlighted this discussion, noting how the segment captured a rare combination of social commentary, moral argument, and political critique. The public response was a mix of praise, criticism, and reflection. Many ordinary viewers said they appreciated someone calling out silence. They argued that empathy should come before politics. Others said that debates about morality should be separate from political arguments, and that Whoopi's approach might have deepened political divisions. Yet even critics acknowledge that the discussion highlighted an important point. Leaders are watched closely, and their responses, or lack of responses, matter. This moment also raised questions about the role of media in shaping public debate. Television hosts like Whoopi Goldberg act as both commentators and moral voices. People expect them to address not just political facts, but also ethical and emotional issues. This is especially true when real tragedy is involved. According to Decider, segments like this one influence social media, drive public opinion, and sometimes push politicians to respond when they might have preferred silence. Another important element is timing. When a public figure dies unexpectedly, the first reactions are critical. What is said, and when it is said, can shape public perception for days or weeks. In this case, Whoopi Goldberg reminded viewers that speaking out immediately, especially when words could support grieving families, is a powerful and necessary action. Her words forced a conversation about empathy, responsibility, and the consequences of choosing silence over speaking up. In the next part, we will examine the broader political implications of this event. We will look at how this controversy fits into the larger pattern of public discourse in the United States, and what it reveals about the relationship between leaders, media, and the public. Now, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. What Whoopi Goldberg said on The View is not just a moment about one person or one political party. It reflects a larger trend in American public life. Social media, television, and 24-hour news cycles have created an environment where everything is immediately visible, shared, and judged. Leaders are under constant scrutiny. Silence, words, and actions are all analyzed by millions of people. In this context, failing to respond publicly to something controversial can become a story itself. Donald Trump's remarks about Rob Reiner are a clear example. The way he politicized a tragedy offended many people. His critics argue that he used the moment to push a political narrative instead of showing empathy. According to Decider, this is part of a pattern where Trump often turns personal or tragic events into political arguments. This is exactly what triggered Whoopi Goldberg to speak so forcefully. She saw a gap between what is morally expected and what political calculation often delivers. The silence of Republican leaders made the situation worse in the eyes of many. People expect their representatives to respond when something clearly crosses the line. Even if they personally support the individual involved, basic public empathy is expected. Entertainment Weekly noted that many critics described silence in such moments as a failure of leadership. A leader's words, or lack of them, can influence how the public perceives morality and accountability in politics. Media commentators have also pointed out that Whoopi Goldberg's role is important here. Television hosts, like her, are not just sharing opinions. They are shaping public conversation. They act as moral and social guides, helping audiences understand what is acceptable behavior. TV Insider described this segment as a rare moment where television combined entertainment, political critique, and moral clarity. It showed that media can hold leaders accountable in ways traditional political processes sometimes cannot. This moment also reminds us how polarized America has become. Many people are quick to defend political allies, even when those allies make statements that seem offensive or insensitive. Others are quick to criticize public figures for any perceived misstep. Whoopi Goldberg's direct language cut through this polarization. She forced the conversation onto empathy and human decency, rather than political strategy or loyalty. It was a reminder that some issues transcend party lines and require a moral response. At the same time, this controversy illustrates a challenge in modern politics. Leaders often have to balance personal beliefs, party loyalty, and public opinion. Speaking out against a powerful figure like Trump can have political consequences. This is why some Republicans stayed silent. They feared backlash from voters or damaging their political careers. But silence, as Whoopi pointed out, can carry its own consequences. It can be seen as approval of behavior that is widely criticized. It can erode public trust in leaders and create a sense of moral compromise. This discussion is relevant beyond just Trump or Republicans. It shows how public figures are judged by their words and their actions or inactions. In today's culture, failing to act during a moment of moral clarity can become a story itself. Viewers and citizens pay attention to how leaders respond, and they expect empathy, honesty, and accountability. Whoopi Goldberg's message highlights the expectation that public leaders act responsibly, even when it is difficult. It also reminds audiences that speaking out matters, and that silence is not always neutral. In the final part, we will wrap up the story, summarize reactions, and explore what this means for the future of political discourse. We will also discuss how audiences, media, and politicians interact when controversies like this emerge. To wrap up, the controversy around Whoopi Goldberg's comments on The View shows how public discourse in the United States has evolved. Today, television hosts, social media personalities, and journalists all play a role in holding public figures accountable. When Donald Trump made his remarks about Rob Reiner, the reaction from the media and the public was immediate. Whoopi Goldberg used her platform to speak out clearly and forcefully, calling out not only Trump, but also Republican leaders who stayed silent. Her words, "Damn you all," were shocking to some, but inspiring to others, and they sparked a national conversation about morality, empathy, and leadership. This moment highlights how powerful words can be. Public figures are watched constantly, and every statement is analyzed. Silence in the face of obvious wrongdoing can be just as significant as words themselves. As TV Insider explained, Whoopi's segment was a perfect example of how media can influence public debate. It showed that even in a highly polarized political environment, there are moments where speaking out is expected, necessary, and morally significant. The public pays attention not just to what leaders say, but also to what they choose not to say. The reactions online and in media coverage show how divided opinions are. Many viewers supported Whoopi's message, praising her courage for addressing both Trump and the Republican silence. Social media was flooded with clips, reactions, and discussions about empathy, respect, and accountability. Decider reported that people highlighted the importance of calling out behavior that is widely viewed as insensitive, especially in moments involving tragedy. This shows that public opinion can reinforce expectations for ethical behavior, even when political loyalties make it complicated. At the same time, critics argued that Whoopi's approach was harsh and confrontational. They suggested that public shaming may not always encourage constructive dialogue. Some political analysts explained that politicians face a difficult balance between personal beliefs, party expectations, and public perception. Entertainment Weekly noted that some commentators felt that while her point about empathy was valid, the tone of her delivery could alienate those she hoped to reach. Regardless of opinion, this episode shows a key lesson about modern public life. Leaders are expected to act responsibly and with compassion, especially during moments of human tragedy. Silence can be interpreted as approval or weakness, and speaking out carries both risk and reward. Whoopi Goldberg's message reminds us that public voices matter. She demonstrated that media platforms can be used to highlight moral clarity, encourage empathy, and challenge inaction. The story also demonstrates the evolving relationship between media, politicians, and the public. Audiences expect accountability and moral responsibility, not just political correctness or strategic calculation. This incident with Whoopi and Trump underscores that the public judges behavior closely, and in moments of tragedy, moral action is scrutinized more than ever. It reinforces the idea that leadership involves both words and deeds, and that moral courage can sometimes outweigh political convenience. In conclusion, Whoopi Goldberg's remarks on The View are more than just a viral moment. They are a reflection of the times we live in, where media, politics, and public opinion intersect in powerful ways. Her call for empathy, accountability, and human decency resonated with many people and sparked widespread discussion. It reminds leaders and citizens alike that moral clarity is essential, that silence is never neutral, and that speaking out can make a meaningful difference. This is a lesson about responsibility, leadership, and the power of public voice that will continue to shape political and cultural conversations in the years ahead.